Have you ever felt this? You meditate, you journal, you dive into shadow work for months. You awaken, and instead of feeling free, you feel tired in a way sleep can't fix, like your soul is burned out from carrying truths you can't unsee. Nobody warns you about this part. The part where awakening doesn't feel like enlightenment, it feels like weight. It feels like you suddenly became responsible for an inner world you didn't know existed. Why does awakening, something meant to expand you, sometimes feel like it's crushing you? Most people think they're doing something wrong. They assume they're regressing, losing progress, or backsliding spiritually. But what if the exhaustion isn't a sign of failure? What if it's a sign of evolution? In this video, we're going to break this down with absolute clarity. You'll see why spiritual burnout is real, not imagined, and why so many long-term seekers experience it. The Jungian mechanics behind energetic overload, including what happens when the unconscious rises too quickly. The 5 stages of spiritual fatigue that almost everyone goes through, but nobody talks about. The hidden danger of awakening too fast, the trap that drains even the most devoted practitioners, and most importantly, how to recover without falling back into old identities, old patterns, or old versions of yourself. Because spiritual exhaustion is not a mistake, it's a threshold. It's the moment your old operating system can't hold your new level of awareness anymore. So if you've been feeling depleted, discouraged, or overwhelmed by your inner work, stay with me. Nothing's wrong with you. It might just mean you're evolving faster than you realize. What if the real reason you're tired is because you're running a new consciousness on old emotional hardware? Most people in America say I'm drained because of work, stress, deadlines, insomnia. But the exhaustion that comes with awakening, the spiritual burnout nobody talks about, begins long before any of those surface-level factors do. It begins with a subtle tension inside you, a tension you can't describe, but you can feel. It's the moment you realize you're living with new insight, but inside an old environment. Jung had a name for this: psychic splitting. The point when your inner world evolves faster than your outer life can keep up. Inside, you've expanded, but outside, everything remains the same. And that mismatch creates an invisible pressure on your nervous system. Someone goes on a 7-day retreat, meditating, breathing, detoxing, reconnecting with silence. They return home expecting peace to follow them. But suddenly, conversations that once felt normal now feel loud, chaotic, drenched in dopamine. Small talk feels like sandpaper. Crowds feel abrasive. Notifications feel violent. They don't hate anyone. They haven't outgrown their community. But something deeper has shifted. Their frequency has changed, and for the first time, the dissonance becomes unbearable. This isn't spiritual weakness. It's friction fatigue, the exhaustion of trying to live between two selves, the one that awakened and the one the world still expects you to be. And here's where many seekers in the US fall into a painful trap. Instead of accepting this transition, they burn themselves out trying to fix their outer world. They try to enlighten their families. They try to upgrade their friend group. They try to convert people who never asked to be converted. They start spreading wisdom to bridge the gap, but instead they widen it. Because when you force your new awareness onto an environment that isn't ready, you drain the very energy you were trying to protect. Spiritual burnout doesn't happen because you're weak. It happens because you're evolving, and evolution always disrupts whatever came before it. And this invisible tension, this psychological stretching, is only the first form of exhaustion. There's a deeper layer coming, one Jung warned about long before spiritual content went viral. Because once your outer world stops matching your inner world, your unconscious begins to push upward faster than you can integrate it. And that leads us directly into the second and far more dangerous source of spiritual exhaustion. Let's go there now. Shadow work is powerful. Shadow work can heal you. But shadow work, when done too fast, can also break your nervous system in ways you don't notice until it's too late. What if the exhaustion you're feeling isn't from awakening itself, but from emotional overexposure? Jung once said, There's a reason the unconscious is unconscious. The ego cannot take too much truth at once. He wasn't being poetic. He was being literal. The psyche has a threshold. Go beyond it, and what was meant to heal becomes something closer to self-inflicted psychological harm. And this is where so many seekers, especially in the US, unwittingly sabotage themselves. They binge shadow work the same way people binge Netflix. 7 journaling prompts, 4 guided meditations, 3 tarot spreads, 2 trauma videos on YouTube, all in a single evening. That's not spiritual discipline. That's emotional flooding. Let's talk science for a moment. When you excavate wounds too quickly, your limbic system reads it as a threat. It reacts as if you're reliving trauma repeatedly. Cortisol spikes, hypervigilance, emotional exhaustion, inability to focus, brain fog, a numbness that feels like I have nothing left to give. This isn't burnout from awakening. It's burnout from over-processing your pain without giving your body time to digest it. Someone discovers a childhood wound around 9 p.m., a memory they haven't touched in decades. Instead of grounding, resting, or pausing, they spend the next 6 hours journaling, analyzing, looping, spiraling. By 3 a.m., they're emotionally shredded and spiritually disoriented. That's not healing. That's re-traumatization disguised as self-improvement. Shadow work isn't meant to be done at the speed of obsession. It's meant to be done at the speed of integration. Slow, mindful, digestible. Healing is not digging deeper. Healing is integrating slower. Every insight needs time to settle. Every revelation needs space to become embodied. If you don't give the psyche time to breathe, it can't build the structure needed to hold new awareness. And that leads to a deeper, more dangerous stage of spiritual exhaustion, a stage where your identity begins to dissolve faster than you can rebuild it. Because after you dig too much shadow, something else starts to collapse. Your sense of self. Do you remember that moment when you realized, I'm not who I used to be, but I also don't know who I am now? That's ego death. And although it looks cool on TikTok, in real life it doesn't feel aesthetic or mystical. It feels like someone is peeling away layers of your identity, with no map, no instructions, and no clear sense of what comes next. In the US, people often describe this experience with phrases like, my personality evaporated. Nothing feels solid anymore. It's like I'm watching myself live. They're not exaggerating. They're describing what Jung called the dissolution phase, the stage where the old ego collapses so a new structure of consciousness can emerge. But here's the part most people don't understand. When your old identity dissolves, your body enters an identity vacuum. And that vacuum drains your energy on every level. Common symptoms include loss of motivation, loss of interest in things you used to love, feeling directionless, like your internal GPS just shut off. Why does this happen? Because your mind is trying to rebuild an entire value system from zero. Everything you used to rely on, your roles, goals, likes, dislikes, social identity, sense of self, is being uninstalled. And just like any operating system going through a full reset, it takes energy, a lot of energy. Most seekers accidentally make this phase worse by trying to force themselves back into their old personality. They push themselves to act cheerful, to be positive, to socialize, to vibe the way they used to, all in an attempt to feel normal again. But that's exactly when spiritual burnout turns from mild to severe. You cannot return to an identity that has already dissolved. When you try, you're essentially dragging around an energetic skeleton, a version of yourself you've already outgrown. You're not losing yourself, you're being reborn. And every rebirth is exhausting. There is no transformation without fatigue. There is no reconstruction without temporary collapse. Your nervous system is working overtime to create space for a more authentic version of you to emerge. And in this vulnerable stage, where the old self is gone and the new self hasn't formed, you're more susceptible to the next trap on the awakening path. The silent, subtle energy leaks that drain awakened people without them ever realizing it. You're not just tired because of awakening. You're tired because there are things draining your energy that you haven't even noticed yet. If ego death is the inner storm, then energy leaks from the quiet cuts small enough to ignore. caretaking, becoming the therapist for everyone around you. When you awaken, you listen deeper, you sense emotions faster, you understand people's wounds almost instantly, and suddenly, you become the person everyone comes to for comfort, advice, or emotional unloading. You're not just listening, you're carrying their feelings. One awakened person described it perfectly. I became everyone's safe space, and I didn't realize I no longer had space for myself. This is spiritual fatigue, burning out, because you've been holding the emotional weight of others while neglecting your own. Consuming too much spiritual content information, replacing embodiment, YouTube, podcasts, tarot, astrology, human design, spiritual creators, all useful, all inspiring. But when consumed excessively, awakening becomes intellectual, not embodied. You watch 4 videos on shadow work, 3 trauma podcasts, then a tarot reading for your sign. But you're too overwhelmed to apply anything. You're learning more and more, but living less and less. Over-empathy, a hypersensitive nervous system absorbing everything. After awakening, your nervous system becomes more sensitive. You feel the sadness in a meeting room. You absorb the anxiety in a busy grocery store. You're drained after standing next to stressed people for 10 minutes. This isn't weakness, it's energetic permeability. Your boundaries becoming more porous. Without conscious grounding, this kind of sensitivity will wipe out your energy reserves fast. High vibration pressure, the stress of trying to be positive 24/7. This one is the trickiest trap. You start believing negativity equals low vibration, and low vibration failure on the spiritual path. Trying to stay high vibe 24/7 leads to suppression, denial, emotional shutdown, and eventually, full-scale burnout. No one is meant to be positive all the time. You're meant to experience, not perform. You're not designed to know everything, feel everything, or heal everything. You're designed to live slowly, intentionally, one integration at a time. And once you stop leaking energy, you finally have the capacity to enter the next phase of awakening. The phase, Jung believed, was the most crucial, rebuilding the nervous system and creating a new inner structure. You don't need to shrink back from your awakened self in order to recover. One of the biggest misconceptions about spiritual burnout is the idea that rest equals regression, that slowing down means losing everything you've gained. In reality, Jung called this stage the restoration cycle, the period where your mind and nervous system rebuild the internal structure needed to support your expanded awareness. You're not returning to your old self, you're laying the foundation for your next self. Here are 5 recovery steps, backed by Jungian psychology and modern neuroscience, steps that help you recharge without undoing your awakening. Nervous system reset. Letting the body catch up to consciousness. Awakening expands your inner world fast, but the physical body doesn't update at the same speed. You need to slow the physiology to avoid overload. Simple, practical ways, very American, very effective. 5 minutes of grounding each morning. Bare feet on the ground or standing outside, breathing deeply. Silent breakfast, eating in quiet, so your nervous system starts the day untriggered. 1 hour of digital detox in the morning. No email, no feeds, no news. When the body feels safe, the psyche can integrate, reduce shadow exposure, lowering the emotional dosage. Healing isn't about digging every day. Shadow work has a rhythm. As Jung said, the psyche digests truth the way the body digests food. Use this structure. 2 days of integrating, 1 day of processing. Micro-integration, a 20-minute walk to reflect on one insight, instead of diving into 3 pages of intense journaling. You uncover an abandonment wound today? Let it sit inside you for 24 hours. Let your body feel it, instead of dissecting it immediately. Rebuild the small self, creating a healthy ego container. Awakening dissolves the ego. But people forget a healthy ego is still essential for functioning in the world. You need to rebuild your small self. Daily routines. Wake up at consistent times. Eat regular meals. Physical exercise. Even 20 minutes of cardio stabilizes serotonin. Creative rituals. Writing, painting, cooking, pottery to ground you in reality. The ego isn't the enemy. It's the container your soul lives in. Filter the energetic environment, curating what touches your field. You can't heal inside a space that constantly drains you. Optimize your social circle. Stay close to people who make you feel more yourself. Release energy drains. Draining friendships, heavy conversations, emotionally chaotic spaces. Digital boundaries. Unfollow spiritual accounts that create noise, pressure, or comparison. Your environment shapes your frequency. Turn insight into embodiment, making wisdom physical. Insight without action turns into overload. You don't need 20 breakthroughs. You need one insight, one action, 1 week. You're learning about self-worth? Practice a no day. 1 full day of saying no to everything misaligned. You're learning about presence? Practice 10 minutes of no multitasking. You're learning about boundaries? Practice no responding to messages after hours. Embodiment, information. Rest is not regression. Rest is integration. And once this sinks in, you're ready for the final part of the video. A reframe that can permanently shift the way you understand exhaustion and awakening. If there's one truth I want you to walk away with, it's this. Spiritual burnout is not a sign you've taken a wrong turn. It's a sign you're finally bringing light into the deepest parts of yourself. The exhaustion you're feeling, the confusion, the heaviness, the sense of being overwhelmed, isn't failure. It's transition. It's the sacred threshold you cross before a new version of you emerges. Most people imagine awakening should feel blissful, but real awakening, the kind Jung described, the kind that rewires your inner architecture, rarely feels good. In the beginning, it feels raw. It feels disorienting. It feels like your old self dissolving while your new self hasn't fully arrived. You're not breaking down, you're breaking through. And in case nobody has told you this, it's okay to feel tired on the spiritual path. Transformation and fatigue often come hand in hand. Rest doesn't undo your awakening, rest integrates it. Before you leave this video, I want to invite you into one small yet powerful practice, not just for you, but for everyone walking this path alongside you. Drop a comment below and share. Where are you on your awakening journey right now? You'll be surprised how many people are experiencing the exact same thing. Awakening isn't meant to be walked alone. And if you want to keep exploring the depths of Jungian psychology, shadow work, consciousness, and real inner transformation, we're building a space for evolving souls, for people ready to see clearly, live honestly, and grow into the larger version of who they're meant to become. You're not lost. You're opening. You're becoming.